Raghu, I want to talk about something particularly in this podcast episode that I feel is very relevant today, and
Mm.
that is people who are engaging on different paths for spiritual and personal development and evolution. There's a bunch of different paths, but I want to speak to you particularly about kind of different paths of psychedelics is very big now of approaching
Mm.
that. But then also
Yeah.
we have the Yoga Vedantic path, and now it's kind of mingling in between the few. And some people are saying no, and some people are saying yeah, and there's so many different things. But I feel that you are quite an authority to speak on this. So I want to
Is
you've
it
had a nice
in
scope.
India? Yeah, maybe.
Give it a little side
Maybe
wobble,
not.
head
Yeah.
wobble. So I want to also acknowledge that people listening to this may not know much about yourself. They may not know about Ram Dass, who you spend a lot of time with. They may not know about the traditions that you and Ram Dass have been influenced by and have, been part of. And they're
Mm.
from a later generation, like you, like, including myself, and also not from the US because you were around, 60s, 70s where this was really coming up. I kind of feel like we're in a similar time of like the spread of psychedelics, of people taking it for getting to know themselves more.
Mm.
And would you feel
True.
that? Would you agree on that? And I feel
Yeah,
it's
yeah,
really interesting.
yeah. I really would. Yeah, it's definitely somewhat of a revolution
Right.
and a return to, as you said, people wanting to just get to know themselves a little bit better. And actually, that's what we're entering into this whole area at Love Serve Remember, which is the umbrella for ramdas.org and the Be Here Now Network, BeHereNowNetwork.com, with all the podcasts. And yeah, it's going to be something that gives his perspective on really the integration of science, spirituality, and psychedelic insight. And then what do you do? First, what do you do when you get those ineffable experiences? What do you do with that insight? How does it affect your day to day life? How do you incorporate it into a much broader view? Um, I mean, our guru, Neem Karoli Baba, said to us after Ramdas had given him a lot of acid, I mean, huge doses. And
How
he
much?
said, you know what? I just found that out. How about that? I was at MAPS last summer. You know, MAPS, the organization that tried to get MDMA approved for clinical use. You
Okay,
didn't
no, I
read
don't
about
know.
all that stuff?
No, no.
Oh, you got to know about that. That, like, it just got refused. It's a
Right.
huge thing here
Mm-hmm.
where we really thought, okay, now people will be able to get treatment, particularly for PTSD, but also
Right.
death and dying and so on. But we're not, Ramdas didn't, he was completely into it, and he actually met with a bunch of people a couple of years before he died that were forwarding this cause of being able to use this in therapeutic environment. He was about set and setting with Leary all the way back then, right? What do you do? How do you set something up? How do you treat it with respect rather than just popping something? And then what do you do? What's the outcome? Once you have that ineffable experience. So I was going to say, yeah, okay, back to
How
at
much acid?
MAPS.
Yeah.
At MAPS was a man named Leonard Picard, the biggest maker of LSD in the known world. Okay, he got busted. He spent a lot of time. He just got out, I think, not more than a couple of years ago, a few years ago. And in his talk, he gave he knew exactly how many microdoses this acid that Ramdas got, because he was connected to the same people and brought to India back then. It was late 60s, early 70s, right? And uh, like 600 micrograms per dose. And he gave him, I mean, three or four. He just
Hmm.
put them down. Nothing happened. And
Can you explain that story more for people who don't know it?
well, Ramdas was sitting with Neem Karoli Baba. We used to call him Maharajji as a nickname. And he said to Ramdas, "Do you have some of that medicine?" And he thought, like I did, because he said the same thing to me much later on. And that's a whole other story about my father. That's pretty amazing. But Ram Dass finally figured out he's talking about, he called it the yogi medicine. And then he said, give me. And Ram Dass took it, gave it to him. And he said, and nothing happened, meaning there was no visible effects whatsoever. Nothing changed. He said, this is good for people in the beginning, as something that opens up a door. He didn't speak like that. He didn't speak in teaching terms particularly. But he said, you get to sit with Christ for a couple of hours, but then you got to leave. Come down. You got to leave. Much better ultimately to love everyone, serve everyone, and remember God. So the funny part of the story is when he went back to America and then went the second time, and this is 1970, and some of us went at the same time and were able to meet Neem Karoli Baba. So when he did that, he while he was away, he wondered if his mind was playing tricks, because Maharajji quickly put the pills in his mouth. He said, what if I looked away? Maybe he was just throwing it over his shoulder. He had all this paranoid bullshit going on, right? Like we all do. So he had some again with him, and Maharajji, who the whole universe was open to him, whatever he needed to help anybody was there. He said, do you have more of that yogi medicine? Did I take it that time, Ram Dass? He addressed the paranoia, right? And then he gave it to him, and he literally did, well, if you can't see me, I'm putting a pill on tongue one by one in his mouth, and the same thing, nothing happened. And
so funny.
So that was Ram Dass's, it sort of was he went to India because he kept coming down. You know how many, hundreds of acid trips, right? I mean, I don't know how many, a lot. And he went to India because he kept coming down, and he wanted a map of consciousness. Somebody over there must know, some saint or something. And he went over there, and sure enough, he did meet a being. Didn't have a map. The map consisted of, really, I would identify it now as a being that lived in a non-dual state, in a physical body with a personality. In India, they say this is very rare. It's called a siddha in India, not a saint. They don't teach. They don't have books. He didn't have disciples, devotees, and he was a family guru for sure. So Ram Dass kind of went full circle by going to India in his psychedelic journey. And later on, he would occasionally do psychedelics, just as he called it, just to do a checkup, once in a once. And as he got older, and then especially through the stroke, he was not doing it much at all at that time. But anyhow, this journey just became complete when he went to India and met Neem Karoli Baba.
It seems Ram Dass was looking for something more stable and exploring those consciousness states. And I don't know if you'd agree, and I mean, Neem Karoli Baba, I don't know much about him, but you just see him, photos of him, and he's just like complete kaffa, like he's really that stable, lying on his side all the time, is just that complete grounded. And just how you explain the quantity of acid that he takes, like that's again like reflective of his real stira is the Sanskrit word. It's like that grounded stability of just one by one, pop and pop and pop.
Yeah, well, when you're, there's no boundary with anything I'm supposing, right, in this kind of a state. I mean, the way that he completely knew our entire lives,
right.
Dylan, you can't imagine, our minds were broken by this, that was the most powerful thing.
Without you speaking to him before that?
Nothing, absolutely nothing.
So true siddha. true siddha, that
Or,
all
yeah,
knowing.
right. Or he would, you know, say something to a person that hadn't happened as if it had happened. So did you, your mother wrote a letter, your aunt, whatever, some common stuff, and you go, no, that never happened, and then next day it happened, you know, that kind of thing. So
Mm.
that was all designed to just completely shatter the mind. So we no longer could think anything was real at all, you know, and we're making up and projecting moment to moment to moment. You know, it's what, do you know who Duncan Trussell is?
No.
Famous podcaster in
Hmm.
America.
Hmm.
You know, Joe Rogan.
Yeah.
Okay. He's a, Joe Rogan sort of mentored him in that area.
Right.
And he's got a, you know, very good audience. Anyhow, he and our friends, and we did a thing called the Movie of Me to the Movie of We, an audio book from chats that we did. And the first thing that anybody got to know about is how we are have developed this environment that we are living in that we completely believe is who we are. And the start is to understand, oh, through mindfulness practice, oh, okay, that's my motivations are like self-interested 23 and a quarter at at the least hours a day, that's what we're involved with. Think of it, just think, you know, just think of yourself. Each one of us is involved that way, and it takes mindfulness to at least understand that. So that's what this book is. How do we get and transform that into, you know, as His Holiness the Dalai Lama said, without an altruistic platform that you see everything, you know, life is just cannot be fulfilling, and it's just your purpose, your dharma never gets, you never get a chance to merge with it if you have strictly that
Mm.
narrow, separate view
Right.
of yourself with life.
So, what was some of? So you mentioned that Neem Karoli Baba was your guru as well as Ram Dass. Then how would you describe your relationship to Ram Dass? Because you've devoted a lot of your life, at least at the moment, to sharing the teachings and legacy of Ram Dass. It seems almost like he's kind of like a guru to you. That's my perspective, but from my limited perspective.
Yeah. No, no, and Ram Dass never called himself a guru ever. Ram
But
Dass wasn't
to
finished.
you, like
To me, he
they
was
say,
a
gurus
teacher
don't
in the
call themselves gurus, right? It's like what their
no,
personal
but no,
experiences.
no, he absolutely was a teacher. Some people, too, in these days, especially since he left, may take him on in that role. But for the most part, most people find Ram Dass as a teacher, and the doors open up to that which is Neem Karoli Baba, whatever that is. And Ram Dass was a teacher to me in the beginning, for sure. Then we became friends and we worked on stuff. We were guru brothers and worked on stuff together. And throughout his whole life, I still look to him. You know, I would talk to him about stuff. And what do you think? I'm going through this, that, or the other. That would happen. And so that role was still there. But it was a combination of I was his producer, he was a teacher, he was a friend, we were guru brothers, you know. So it was a mix up, a mashup.
Right. Tell us about you, like meeting Maharajji. And you mentioned some things, but yeah, I would love to hear more because I find the siddhis, the divine, supernatural human capabilities, uh, can itself be like inspiring initiation for people to explore these different.
Yeah, but of course, you know, you always run into the issue of, okay, where do I go to find this thing? You had it, I want it, you know? And it's just, um, there are certainly great teachers, especially available today because of the internet and so on. Whether there are a lot of these kinds, you know, the Neem Karoli Babas around, or Shirdi Sai Baba was the other one. 16th Karmapa was another one. You know, there's a number of them that fit into that category. They, as Maharajji said, do not need to have a body. So they are available. So what's the teachings are so much more available than what we had back then. So that drove us to India, partially, right? And the reality is, what we have found out through all these years is, well, the best, let me tell you this, the best story, I was going to say, all these years we have found out that the deepest part of ourselves is completely connected with what these beings represent. Whatever you want to call it, spirit, God, nirvana, there's so many different words. But the reality is that place is inside us, it's not outside us. And that's another thing. Once one realizes that, one nurtures having that presence more in their lives, and that's through practice. So, yeah, I look. We have these retreats where we gather up. I don't know if you know who Krishna Das is. He's a big chant guy.
Yeah.
Yeah, he comes to Australia. Yeah, I think he went
Yeah.
to New Zealand too. Um, so, and we get some Buddhist teachers. I mean, it's really a wonderful combination of what we represent, lineage wise, legacy wise, is bhakti, devotional yoga, and Buddhist discriminating wisdom. That's really what Maharajji gave us. And so that's always available. It really is. I mean, but it's facile to say that. And what happens is people experience it when we get together. It's really the same. And they do, and Maharaji, he gets around, and people are having darshan, meaning being in the presence, in dreams, a daytime something when Krishnadas is singing the Hanuman Chalisa, which is our main prayer, so to speak. But look, I met him when I first met him in the Himalayas, in the foothills of the Himalayas, in a place called Kenchi Ashram. There was just a few of us. If you can imagine these kind of beings, they might have gazillions of followers and so on. There were 6 people. We were sitting around him, and he came out, and as soon as I saw him, I went. I remember my thoughts, basically. I don't know what order, but one of them was surely, oh, I know you. He was not new. I've known you forever, and I'll know you forever. That was the first thought. It was infinite. And then the next was, oh shit, that's what Ram Dass was all about. Exactly that. And then just relaxing into, like, you get into a hot tub and you just completely let go, just beyond trust, beyond faith, no nothing. You're just here. Just talk about be here now. So I never felt as home in as that moment. I mean, never. Maybe as a baby with a mother, and I said, and with Ram Dass, I said that and I meant that. Oh, that's what Ram Dass was all about, because I had let go when I first met him, and he just created a space where there was no him. It was like, what do you need? And I had this basic, incredible trust in that him. It wasn't even a him in the moment that I was able to completely relax my mind, and it led to the intuition of, hey, I'm going to India. I knew I had to go. So yeah, so the moment I met Neem Karoli Baba was going home. I was all well on my way. Let's put it that, when I met Ram Dass. And it's funny. He said to me, he would jive us all the time. You either jive us or say something serious, like it's all one. There's only one God. Or he'd say to me, like, is Ram Dass your guru? And he knew well that I'd come there specifically to meet him, and anyhow, it was lovely. So to describe what it was like spending the time, the actual moments with this being. I mean, it was like very much like a combination of acid and MDMA. That's how I'd put it.
Wow.
Just completely warm and full of love, yet like you're on a different plane.
Wow.
You're not, there's no time and space, and just like that happens with psychedelics, you're really in the present moment. And we used to freak out too, just feeling like the kind of thoughts you have in front of someone like this. You're like,
Mm.
holy shit, I'm the worst piece of shit that ever lived. I might as well go die. So, that was happening too. And stuff had to die. We were younger than you,
Mm.
23, 4,
Wow.
5 years
Mm.
old, most of us in that. Some of us, were like Ramdas was 15 years older than us, but yeah.
Mm. Yeah,
So
thanks.
that
I
was it.
appreciate it, Raghu, because I just wanted to, honor Neem Karoli Baba. He really is. If for those who uh, respect, Bhakti traditions or just Yoga Vedantic traditions in general, it's nice to just know about the different gurus that were there, and because they still have that legacy, and it flows through people who are still alive today, like yourself, like Krishna Das. And there's people like me who is a few generations after, or a couple more, whatever, and it's like I don't know much about him. I just see photos of him, and for those who don't know, to me he looks like an absolutely beautiful, gorgeous walrus, like the animal just lounging. And I would kind of assume that his teachings are more, as you were saying, just being in the presence, just having that energy flow. I mean, was he doing lecturing? Was he doing a lot of that stuff, or you said
None
jiving with
ever.
people? Yeah, wow.
No,
Okay.
he never even, like the way he spoke, it was in bursts of, I can't describe it. I mean, it's in Hindi, and it would all be translated. So he'd say in
Right.
Hindi, he'd point his finger and go, Sabek, which means all one. And you go, Hanuman, Christ, Buddha, Muhammad, whatever. There's only one, and the message we got, there's only one thing going on. And my sort of story that Krishnadas tells all the time in his kirtans is I asked Maharajji how to meditate. I think when I look back, I really went to Hindu guru. So get a mantra, you can go home, that kind of thing. Uh, Again, we were young, and but it came out. How should I meditate, Maharaji? And he said to me right away, meditate like Christ. When he was nailed to the cross, he felt no pain, just love. He was lost in love with everyone. That went way over my head, meditate like, first of all, I was Jewish. I had no idea who Christ was at all. I mean, none. And then, anyhow, Ramdas came that night. He wasn't there during that day. And I told him the story. I said, look, you have a much more convivial relationship with him. Can you ask him, how did Christ meditate? So it was me, Krishnadas, Ramdas, and a couple other people sitting around him. And Ramdas asked that question, and Maharajji stopped, and he just sat up, closed his eyes, and said nothing. And we were just looking, like, when you're a kid and you're looking at your parents, it suddenly changed the atmosphere of what's happening. And really, I don't know, a minute went by. He opened his eyes and he was crying. Tears are coming from his eyes. This is the extraordinary part of a being like this, who is not living in duality, right? Who's completely at one with the thing, whatever it is, but acting through the body. He's still got a body. That these two things can coexist at the same time. That's, to me, the biggest miracle. And he said over and over, he never died. He never died. He never died. He was lost in love with every sentient being. He never died. He kept going on like that. And we were like, we had Christ Darshan, basically.
Yeah.
We
Yeah.
were in the presence of what that
Right.
is in that moment. And yeah, that was the end for me of any sectarianism or caring about any tradition that's better than none of that mattered whatsoever. And so that gift that he gave us is extraordinary. Now we share that, I've shared it through podcasts, or Krishna's shared it through kirtans, or at our retreats and so on. And that exists for many people in that moment, that vibration, that complete, what was Christ? And he said Christ and Hanuman, by the way, are the same. They're nothing but total devotion to God, and total humble, just caring only about how they can help people. Yeah, this was the essence of it, and it happens in these retreats. I mean, it happens in more than these retreats. It happens in many situations where people get together and they let go and become part of one heart, you know. But I only know these is what I've been doing with Ram Dass when he ended up in Maui after he almost died in 2004. And we went and we kind of put it together, a few of his friends, and made sure he was okay. I mean, he was had a stroke maybe 7 years earlier, something like that. And he stayed there the rest of his life. So it was like, um, 15, 16 years. And that happened in a way that fulfilled the entire arc of his life. Remember, I said earlier, fulfilling the psychedelic arc by going to India. This filled the arc
Oh,
of
wow.
really taking the teachings, tell the truth, love everyone. Which, when he was with him, he said, "Well, Maharajji told him to do that." He said, "I can't do that." He said, "Tell the truth, love everyone, and tell the truth." And he finally got to that place
Mm. Yeah, wow.
by the end of his life. So that's the real mark of it. In terms of actuating what we were given by Maharajji, these little aphorisms, uh, I mean, women. How about this? I'm just remembering. Treat everyone as if all women like your mother or your sister. Okay, a pure woman is worth 100 yogis. So he was really giving us, because our culture is just horrible patriarchal culture. And so he allowed us a way to open up a little bit that way. So that's how he taught,
Mm.
without teaching.
Yeah, it's wonderful. And so you're playing a big role in sharing these teachings, essentially, as well as with this focus on Ram Dass's right now in today's world. How does psychedelics play a role in this? Is it is it based on what Maharajji said? This is a good initial um, way to get people a glimpse, and it seems that Krishna Das kind of also ended up uh, evolving to that relationship with psychedelics and utilizing it in a spiritual journey. I would love you to comment, and also what you're seeing with today, because
That
it's
was,
confusing for people.
what is confusing?
Like people for example, they'll have their meditation practice, they'll have their lineage which they're focusing on various techniques, and then they kind of get lured to these psychedelic journeys which are happening so commonly now on every weekend retreat, and
Yeah.
but then they have what Ram Dass, or what you said Ram Dass says, is like the come down kind of thing, and it's not sustaining. Is it? Then they keep going back, and it kind of does turn into a bit of a drug, if you want to call it that. So just finding
Experience.
the
Mostly it
balance.
turns into, continuation of one experience after the other, and you get very hooked on experience. We're hooked on, I mean, you can do that with meditation too. Have a meditation experience and get hooked on that. We get attached very easily.
Is that a
The
bad thing?
what It's not bad or good, but ultimately it's not. There's unhappiness, there's
Right.
suffering because you're attached, right?
It's not complete in what
So,
we're looking for.
I mean, just take what you're saying. You know, people continue to have ayahuasca, for
Right.
instance, experiences every week they're going, or every month, or whatever it is, and they're saying, "Well, I'm finding out something new every time." But unfortunately, for most people, in my experience, there's an attachment to that experience, and then people, you know, are hooked. They're grasping for that experience, and that is something, you know. And nothing's going to happen. You're going to keep doing it until it's like Ramdas. He had enough. You know, it was not. You know, he saw through his mind stuff of this is going to give me another glimpse of something inside myself. He saw through that, and then that's why he went to India. So that kind of, you know, grasping is clinging is our biggest difficulty, right, in everything. And so one needs to address that. And but again, I can't tell you how many people get in touch with us. You know, like young, you know, the age we early 20s or something. And I had a great psilocybin trip, and then, you know, suddenly I saw Be Here Now. I read, wow, I'm listening to you know, so Ramdas. So, you know, as you said earlier, it seems like this is like a return to what I was used to back then. But honestly, over the decades, one way or another, well, I have to say, psychedelics, the psychedelic revolution of the last, you know, what, 5, 10 years is real, and it is doing something. And there are still people that are opening up, you know, whether they, I mean, you asked about us now. I don't think any of us are doing a lot of psychedelics from back then. Actually, you know, this gentleman, Rick Doblin, who I did a podcast with, uh, he runs MAPS, which is the
Uh-huh.
multidisciplinary and blah blah. I can never remember the acronym what it's for, but basically they're heading up all the research to get it, you know, through the FDA in the States so that therapists can use it. And, you know, they pushed back. I'm not quite sure what's going to happen, but he said, "Hey, you know, you guys and gals, you know, in the 70s were, you know, pretty much turned instead of turning inward using psychedelics, you were using meditation. Now you're getting to a stage that, you know, you're towards the end of your life. I think it'd be great if you all considered just a little touch up, like a MDMA trip that would just, you know, give you back the idea of the
Mm.
integration of all things, the interconnectivity, which is what MDMA does." And so I thought it was a good message. But other than that, I think we're just doing our best to respond to what's going on. And through the foundation, we're going to set up a summit next year that's going to reflect on how these entheogens, these psychedelics, can be used to go inside and further who, you know, knowledge of who we really are and how we are interconnected. And then what do, you know, when you have those ineffable experiences that, you know, how do you integrate that into a day to day? How do you not perhaps integrate spiritual practices? And there's so many of
Right.
them, from writing a diary to meditation to mantras to mindfulness and so on, visualization, dream yoga. I mean, there's so many different ways in which one can apply the experience through the psychedelics into the daily life, and that's what we want to represent.
Yeah, great. How did you feel when that man from Maps offered you a touch up? Like, what was your feeling in your
I
body?
said, "Good idea," and I got some.
Yeah, it was a good touch up.
Uh, yeah, it ended up actually. I think it was more. Oh, it was psilocybin. I don't know what
Okay,
happened with the MDMA. Okay, I'll have to go ask
right.
Rick to give me another advisal.
And with in your time with Neem Karoli Baba, when kind of that crew of yours moved from the psychedelics to the Neem Karoli Baba, Did
Yeah.
you have that cleanliness? Did you have to keep going back? And how was the integration process for you of getting that deep, one, unified field of non-duality experiences with this siddha, and then, yeah, how was that for you?
And then what?
And
No
then going back
siddha?
to US, and then, yeah, well,
Yeah,
whatever
right.
happened.
Where's the siddha? Oh God. No, we went through a lot of suffering, to be in that state without. I mean, there were still people doing acid. There's great stories of people doing some. And people said to him, "Hey, can we do this?" And he'd say, "Yeah, go up in the forest as long as it's cold and do." He gave a whole prescription for it, like
Mm-hmm.
the hermits used to in ages gone by. But I don't remember ever thinking one time about it whatsoever. I mean, we were smoking charas, hash, back then, and some of us, many of us actually, and but that was this, had nothing to do with psychedelics. Uh, no, I never. It dawned on me once to, oh, maybe I should check back with another trip or something. I know I did
Right,
it after that, but very infrequently.
right. And like one big aspect of Neem Karoli Baba was bhakti, devotion. How did that come through? Because you've spoken about like the real like oneness and that knowing, but show us the devotion aspect.
Well, it had nothing to do with what we were thinking about. We didn't contextualize. We knew, of course, it was part of that tradition, but I mean, he, the only time he talked about other beings like this, I mean, I'm being a little bit dramatic, but mostly it was Tibetans. People ask him, "Oh, what about Kalu Rinpoche?" That and he would whatever, and he never met him or anything like that. Um, yeah, he it. Okay, the best example I can give you that's not so verbal. I went to see, before I met Neem Karoli Baba, I was at a being named Swami Muktananda. He was famous back in the day,
Right,
famous guru. Came to the States and everything. And Ram Dass was close to him and helped him get out there. And I actually met Ram Dass at his ashram. But Ram Dass came a day later or something. And when I went to see Swami Muktananda, tons of people, he's giving darshan, and they were all bowing and touching his feet. I had just gotten to India. I was like, huh? What is that all about? Touching people's feet? Anyhow, I went that night. I went back. I told Ramdas, I don't understand. What is this all about? He said, well, it's like, honoring God within this being. And if you have a problem with it, it's good stuff to work on. Later, he called it grist for the mill. And he said, oh, yeah. I was on my way that next day because Ramdas had given me a letter to go to introduce me to people who took me to, or told me where to go to see Maharajji, literally. So I went back that day, and it was the same thing. I just couldn't get with it. I mean, my mind was, I might have touched the floor. I don't know what I did, but I was completely turned off. Then I get up. So anyway, I finally get up to the mountains, and I was just telling the story earlier. What are the first thoughts I had when I met him? And he came out. And I was sitting. Yeah, I was sitting on the floor. Anyhow, he came out. Not a thought. Nothing. Boom! Just down into my head at those feet, touching the feet.
mm.
It
Wow.
wasn't. I mean, I couldn't control
Mm.
myself. I mean, I couldn't even. I mean, that thought was, it just never entered anywhere near me. So I knew then this was beyond how I thought of
Right.
myself.
Mm. Comes from the heart like that.
Yep. Yeah, you
It's
can't. No, it's you. You meet something like that, you can't do anything. your whole everything. It's such truth. You
Yeah.
can't circumvent it in any way. Some people do. They have strong minds and they're not going to let go. And they usually say hi and boom, they're gone. Maybe it's for another lifetime to be able to have met someone like that.
It was kind of like Timothy Leary, right? He's very in the
Yep.
mind, man. And
Yep.
it's funny seeing the juxtaposition of him and Ram Dass when they're speaking together and in conversation.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's
And
lovely. It's
there's a great movie, Dying to Know, which is
yes,
Leary dying. You saw it? Yeah,
yeah, it's
Gay Dillingham.
really good.
We're actually just putting out a book, a coffee table book with the dialogue and the pictures and additional this,
Hmm.
that, or the other. That's beautiful. I mean, to read it is different than to see the film, and you spend more time with it because the film
Hmm.
goes boom right by.
Yeah,
And to see how they transcended just what you said around Leary's mind and Ram Dass's heart, and it
right.
just became one
Yeah.
whole. It was beautiful.
Yeah, you see that in that movie when they're in conversation, like later in their lives. It was really beautiful, and like Ram
Yeah,
Dass is playing a very like being that heart. He's
yeah,
holding this, like he's holding that harmony in a way, like
yeah,
it's him doing it,
totally.
and it's beautiful. He's the soft one, allowing Leary's kind of fiery
Yeah,
mind to
yeah,
to be
yeah,
circulating with that. But
yeah.
yeah.
It
So
was great.
back to what you're doing, because I want to like again bring this to practically for our listeners who are, as I said, confused or have a uncertain relationships of integrating psychedelics into their spiritual
Oh,
paths. I want to ask because you're it seems like that's kind of one of your main focuses with Love Serve Remember Foundation is that you're with this summit that's coming up. You're so are you doing that as okay, psychedelics is like one of the best ways, so I'm going to put my energy and attention towards sharing how to integrate it? Or is it psychedelics is so
yeah.
common right now, I kind of need to step in and play a role in people to do it right?
Well, first of all, it's not just me. We have a whole, in
Yeah.
terms of the directions that we take with what we're doing. There's a number of people. Some of them that are part of the family of us from back in the day in India. So yeah, this is not a solo decision. Number one, and number two, no, this is not. I mean, we have a lot of stuff going on: courses and books and live retreats and films and so on. So this, yes, I do feel it's important. I mean, Ram Dass had an important voice in the representation of how to use psychedelics to go inside and know yourself, and to hopefully, in the end, integrate that with spiritual practices and ways in which you can set up a perspective for yourself. And you really, mindfulness really can kick in, especially if you've had that ineffable experience of complete interconnection with everyone and everything. And so that's what we feel would be really important to represent. So we're going to workshop it out at this summit, and have a lot of different voices in it. And yeah, I think it's going to be a great thing. The end of March next year.
Right.
And
And how do
uh,
people find out about that? Like
yeah, so the best thing to do in any of these cases, in other words, in any of the things I'm speaking to, is just go to ramdas.org and put your email address in. And we have a weekly newsletter. You'll get notices about all of what this book, for instance, Dying to Know, the retreat in Maui at the end of this year, um, a course which is very applicable maybe for us in America because we have an election coming up, and we're doing a course, how to basically transform anxiety and uncertainty that we are feeling, particularly there with what's happening,
mm,
and try and help people have a perspective that allows them and us to be able to be in the moment with this. So, yeah, ramdas.org. Oh, if you want the movie of me to the movie of we, this is my own little self interested thing with Duncan Trussell and myself. Uh, Go to movieofme.com, and it's got
right.
samples and all that there. Yeah.
Yeah. And you just
So Yeah,
You've got
those
a
are the
ton
things.
of things. You've got a ton of resources, like the Mind
I
Rolling
know.
podcast, over 500 episodes.
Yep.
Within the Be Here Now net. Tell us just a bit about the Be Here Now network. More just because I believe Dr. Robert Svoboda is part of that in some way.
Yeah.
Is that right?
Yeah.
Is
Yeah. He
so?
has a podcast. Yeah, he's
Yeah.
great.
So that's just a network that kind of like I don't know, like a record label would do with music, is doing kind of with teachings. Is that right? In a
Yeah,
way.
you might say that, especially since I had a record label. So that's kind of, I guess, part of what I was thinking. But uh, basically, a number of extraordinary teachers, including ones that aren't with us, of course, Ram Dass, but Krishnamurti, Alan Watts, and then the likes of Jack Cornfield and Sharon Salzberg and Krishna Das and so on, and what I do with mind rolling. Um, and we're expanding it.
Mm,
We now have an indigenous podcast. We're expanding into psychedelics, of course, as part of what we're doing, and just getting more diverse
yeah.
about how we're presenting. What we feel is an important integration again of the heart and the discriminating wisdom of the mind.
Love it.
So yeah.
All right. Thanks a lot, Raghu. I just want to end with one question, which I asked all my guests, and that is, what do you do on a daily routine? What's your daily routine? What's your practices?
Around spiritual practice, you mean?
Yeah, anything can
Yeah.
spiritual health. Yeah, to whatever detail you
Yeah.
want to share.
I mean, yeah, every morning I do practice. Some of it is strictly around meditation. Some of it's around pranayama, breath. So, for sure, the Hanuman Chalisa. Do you know what the Hanuman Chalisa
Yes,
is? Yeah,
yes.
yeah, that's an
Valmiki's chant. Yeah, if you can explain to people what that is.
Valmiki. No, no,
It's not
no.
Valmiki.
It's Tulsi Das,
Tulsidas.
who is
Sorry. Yes.
That's Valmiki is the older that's version of the Ramayana, the story
You're right.
of Ram. But Tulsi
Right.
Das
Right. Right.
created the Hanuman Chalisa, and he was the heart guy, shall we say? We were given this thing. I got to tell you, there's a statue of this being Hanuman, the monkey god of India, in Taos, New Mexico, that Ram Dass got made with our Indian mother, Siddhi Ma, and a.k.a. Shah, his Indian brother. Let me tell you, and Ram Dass himself says this, when I went to India, I was more interested in Buddhism, not the gaudy Hindu stuff. And I kind of felt the same way. But then Krishnadas and someone else, they learned the Chalisa, at least how to pronounce, and got the translation of what the words were. 40 verses in praise of the monkey god Hanuman. And basically, it reminds him who he really is in order to do the things he needs to do to serve humanity. I mean, that's a very generalized version. And that is told to us. Maharajji said every word of the Hanuman Chalisa is a Maha Mantra, the great mantra. So we learned it. And a funny thing happened to me personally. I don't know. I got like sucked into this vortex of transformation. Every time I would do it, the time would stop. That moment I talked about before would happen. Time would stop. And is it not the same every time? But a lot of times, it was the grand equalizer to the bullshit in my life.
Hmm.
So that's a big thing that's now many people in the West, also in Australia, New
Yeah.
Zealand, know this chant, which is extraordinary. It's not easy to learn off by heart. It's 40 verses of Hindi.
Hmm.
So I just think that, that is probably one of the most important things that we're connected to is that particular chant.
What I really
Um,
find significant about it is that it is in Hindi. Like there's so many chants and mantras that
And
people chant in Sanskrit, but that's
yeah, very difficult. Yeah.
such a common, significant chant that it's interesting how it really almost came to the level of these other Sanskrit chants much later on. It's kind of the only one that I know, that Hindi chant, that has become
Mm.
on that high kind of status of
Yeah.
chants.
So this is central to my and many others of us practice. Actually,
Right.
the other in terms of the meditation, it's vipassana, insight meditation. Are you familiar with that?
Yeah, yeah. Very common
Yeah,
around
it is.
these
So
days.
people, yeah.
Yeah.
So those are the ways in which bhakti and Buddhist
Right. Right.
merge
Yeah.
for
That's
us.
good.
So I think that's a powerful thing, and the rest of it is, I'm quite occupied as the director of the foundation, as doing the podcast thing, and producing movies and books, and all of that kind of stuff. But I'm very fortunate to be in this position because it forces me to only do one thing, relate to Dharma
Hmm.
one way or the other.
Yeah.
So it's yeah, good work if you can get it, kind of a
Yeah.
deal, right?
Yeah.
So I'm pretty lucky, and then so that it's a lot of occupation, of course. But I live in this phenomenal place called Ojai, and nature is all about, and
And supporting
that
Dharma.
is the yeah, that is the other thing we should never forget. When people say, "Well, what am I supposed to do to integrate, say, a psychedelic experience?" Well, start with walking in the woods,
Mm.
walking by a lake, by the ocean,
Wonderful.
and
That's good.
every time you think of something you're clinging to, remember we talked about clinging and grasping,
Mm.
let it go, because in nature you can much more easily do that. Just start there. Then
Right.
maybe 2 or 3 minutes of sitting in front of an altar with whoever it is that you like, and, breathing, just getting with one's breath. There's two things. The Chalisa can come later.
Yeah. Great advice. One more thing that just came to me.
Yeah.
It's a bit kind of niche maybe, but it's, have you ever pondered how some people who come from a Jewish background, such as yourself and Ram Dass and Krishna Das, again unite, I guess, in their evolution, kind of like more a tradition or more in their blood, and then come together in spiritual circles like this. I experienced the same with the Vedic traditions that I'm in, coming from a Jewish background as well, and other people going that.
Mm.
But it's definitely a phenomenon around here.
Yeah. That's
Yeah,
funny.
yeah, I find it. Um, yeah, I don't know. Have you ever considered it or pondered how that happens?
Give me a specific question here.
Like, has it ever allured to you that, oh, I'm now in this close circle of people, in a very close circle? I mean, these are people who I went to see Maharajji with, Krishna Das
Yeah.
and Ramdas, for example, your best friends, and they also happen to be Jewish, which is another unity point in that. But all of you guys in the past had, your blood in that lineage. So has that ever occurred
Yeah.
to you, like the karma of that? And
Yes, a billion times. A billion times. We can't figure it out.
yeah, that's
He
what that's
never,
what I'm asking.
Maharaji never mentioned a Jew the whole time, Jewish, the entire time we were with him. And and it's not like I was there, I was there a year and a half. Krishnadas was there for, 3.5 years or something. But everybody, we would have noticed. The only thing I can think of, and this is my personal thing, which I've mentioned to others, is from the point of non-duality view, right? And where he says it's all one. But from the standpoint, Christ was Jewish. Okay. So whatever that thing, wherever that Abrahamic thing comes from, is one thing. The fact that we have completely tried to destroy each other, or more, maybe the Jews getting destroyed, is inconsequential to the. I mean, is very consequential, not inconsequential, to the reality of what our minds have created in this gigantic separation. For someone like Neem Karoli Baba, there was no separation
Right.
from that point. That's the only thing I could think of, because yes, there was many Jews that were, went to India. Not all, like half of them, maybe. That might be close to what it was, but or 30%. I don't know. But in the beginning, you're right. Me, Krishnadas, Ramdas, Rameshwar Das, I know, are 4 out of the 6 or 7 that were there in that moment that were Jewish. But I mean, he said to me when I saw him that first time, "Where's your cross?" I'm thinking, what cross? I'm Jewish.
Hmm.
And then, 3 days later with the Christ experience, that was
Wow.
the end of that.
Amazing. Yeah.
Yeah. So, yeah, I have no idea, nor do I care. Some of us
Hmm.
have, gone back and taken some of the Jewish traditions and so on. I've done a little, but yeah, that's the inconsequential part. I don't care.
Yeah. All right. Thanks so much, Raghu. Yeah,
Thank you,
appreciate you being
Dylan.
on the podcast, and there's plenty of resources for people to check out and work to explore. So,
Yes. Yep. Yep. Yep.
thank you.
All right, thanks, Ram Ram.
Ram Ram.